I must say I do feel like I'm conducting a news conference. But, I can introduce Alfredo Arribas, who is the architect of what Ardi, the Barcelona design magazine, called the ultimate bar, the Torre de Avila, a spectacular reworking of a 1920s piece of neo-medievalism, and he's now bent on proving that it wasn't the ultimate bar, but he's going to do something even more extraordinary and spectacular. Alfredo.
Very sorry for the delay, but today has been a very difficult day. Exams have gone so many things, and also the Barcelona designers all together. At least four of them. Hello. Well, I went to the Architectural Association last summer to explain a little bit about my work. And in this case, I was not sure about if I was going to give a lecture or just to talk about the relationship between our work and the Barcelona's panorama, or maybe the coincidence or the difference between the four people that have been invited by you. Well, at least I would like to just talk a little about my concernings or my objectives, or how the work is observed by my own side, and maybe, well, just to show you again some slides about one of the two projects selected, the Torres de Avila, because the second one is just a project, it's under construction right now, and should be the only way to explain or to talk about, to have the drawings in front of us, and I have not. Maybe if someone is interested, we can do it later on the exhibition hall. And also, I would like to just introduce some other actual projects that our studio is doing right now. Well, the first thing that was very surprised for, at least for me, and maybe for all of the people that has been invited, is why this selection, not so easy to understand from our point of view, from our side. Later than this surprising reaction, we thought that maybe the connection was certain flavor about Barcelona, something like that, difficult to explain better than this, or some coincidence in the way to express the projects in a very expressive, if I can say that way, with the form used until the last expression that it has. But of course, as you can comprove from the exhibition, are probably listening us in a several and different manners, maybe in a even different ways of thinking, but with some connection with the idea, at least the idea that you have about Barcelona, or Barcelona design, or Barcelona architecture, to be more clear. Well, talking about the work of my studio, if I can try to describe it, or just to give an adjective or some words to explain it, I would like to say that by me it's a kind of schizophrenic work, because it's always in between different tops or opposite things to consider. As you know, or you probably know, I am architect, but my work is more well known as an interior design work. That maybe is the first step in this schizophrenic situation. Later we can talk about why in Barcelona some of us have been working in design instead of architecture, or at least giving to the design a priority during certain years, certain number of years. Well, but this balance or relationship between architectural meanings and design is not the only one that I have. Well, I've been teaching in the School of Architecture from a long time, something like 12 or 13 years ago, just after to finish my studies. But at the same time, I was also teaching in the design school, doing the both things together, and having the opportunity to meet very different people. Not only the students, but especially the professionals, the designers, that were at that moment people completely unknown for me. After to finish the career, the studies of architecture in Barcelona, in the School of Barcelona, that's one of the most serious and systematical schools that I know. Well, I found out that the design was a kind of empty space in my head, some kind of field without to have the opportunity until that moment to contact or to connect. Then I started this approach through the teaching in the Lisaba School of Design. That was also my first opportunity to make a project in Barcelona, or a project more or less with public characteristics. And few, and approaching step by step during these years, I was connecting and knowing people like Pepe Cortés, or Dani Freixas, or Alicia Núñez, or even Eduard Samsó, people that were not architects, no one of them, but people that were very interesting for me, because they were working in a different way, in a complete different way that all the things that were taught to me at the school. And I learned a lot during these years, that we have been not only colleagues but also friends. And something that you were asking to Pepe just 10 minutes ago about this speed rise in between the projects of some of us, it's true, but it's true in a way that it's a very friendly way. We try to make it better every time, and we like, first of all than other, that our colleagues, the people that we admire too, should be proud of our work. And most of this big effort is dedicated to these other professionals that are friends of us, because it should be very difficult to understand why we are doing this effort so big, so strange to understand from outside, without to have this certain aspect that's surrounding this work. Then I just was trying to explain you that I was doing my developing of architectural works, slow but step by step, but at the same time I was approaching to the design. And now, even something like 10 years later, or 10 years after these first contacts, I'm still interested in do things that I've been not able to do until now. For example, I would like to do more furniture design that until now has been just a very rough or very fast opportunity to afford. Then you can understand that one of the reasons to work like that is, of course, to enjoy, but also to learn, to practice, to experiment, to have the opportunity to do different things. Well, one of the words that, or the questions that you can ask me later is, do you think that is still interesting in Barcelona, at least, to do more interior design projects with the complexity similar or bigger than the Torres de Avila? This should be a very difficult question to answer. But I am asking me that every day, especially every day that somebody asks for another project similar or in this way. Well, talking again about the schizophrenia, the process in the last 5 years in my studio has been very difficult to control. We were a small studio only 5 years ago, with maybe as much 5 people, doing by myself many of the small works that you need to do to finish with certain quality projects like the project that you probably know. But now we have an office with more than 20 people. Most of them are architects. Most of the 50% are foreigners, not Spanish. I have some English people with me, and Germans, South Americans, etc. And also the objectives of the studio are not similar than it were only 5 years ago. We are trying to do again architectural works with a bigger size, and also we try to make more than 2 or 3 works a year. Then this became the second problem, because I never am sure enough if this is the good way or not. Sometimes I decide, well, we need to do it, it's better to have 10 projects over the studio and then forget about the control, the obsession to know how is every corner, or to know perfectly how they are the rivets or the 2 mil in every small detail. But later, when I notice that doing many things, it's so difficult to get the perfect sensation of a project, perfect done and perfect controlled, I duped again, and I come back to the idea, well, it should be nice to have at least 2 interior design projects in between the 10, and probably if I have enough time I would like to take care and to don't forget this so exciting and incredible sensation. That's to create an ambience, an atmosphere from zero until the last aspect. Well, there is another problem or another question that has always different answers in my head. That's Barcelona or the world. Because now, another thing that's balancing like that is we are working practically 50% in Barcelona and the other 50% outside of Spain, Japan, or in Italy or in Germany. And this is also, again, a kind of situation that makes the consequence to work in a different way. Because I discover that the only way to control as I like the project is do these projects in my town. Well, that's very easy to understand. It's the proximity, is the possibility to feel or to see how the project grows, and to be, well, feeling maybe like the people was feeling in the last century, not now. But still I cannot forget that sensation, and if all the projects that were coming to my office, it was supposed to be outside of Barcelona, I don't know what should happen to me, but probably I should feel very uncomfortable for that. This is more or less the situation in this special moment after to finish 3 or 4 very complex projects in interior design, and starting at the same time some projects about architectural matters, most of them from competitions. Well, maybe I try to show you some slides and then we come back to the story. Please, can you take off the light, please? Well, Torres de Avila, it's a project that I can explain with the slides. Has been a project that probably some of you have shown at the magazines, and then I don't want to describe that project or to say, well, we have 2 towers, one is opposite to the other, the moon, the sun, etc. I only would like to explain what's that project. It seems that's a bar, but it's not. It's just the creation of a place. That's all. This, can you pass the first one? The place was the first one. It was something like that. 2 towers connected by a central space, reproducing as most of the Spanish village buildings built in the 1929 for an international exhibition in Barcelona were just reproductions of certain fragments of the Spanish popular architecture or traditional architecture. And in this case, the towers were the reproduction of the entrance to the Avila city in the center of Spain. But from the 1929, there was nothing inside, even no roof, just the walls. A very, very strange walls because were made in concrete, and in Spain in 1929 the concrete was quite difficult to use as a material to build. Then, when the clients were asking us, Javier Mariscal and me, to develop that project, the theme was not exactly do a bar please here, but the request was, what can you do with this space? Think about and please develop a new place here. And that was we have done. I think even quite 1.5 years after the opening, most of the people that should visit this place is just seeing up, making this kind of promenade into the space and reacting the same that if they were in a museum, in this case a museum of the Barcelona's design probably. Please, can you? Then we never mind about function in strict terms, and we were only trying to invent a concept, an idea, strong enough to develop the design later. And of course, for me, if this project has any quality or any positive aspect, is based mainly in the concept or in the idea or in the message about how the architecture nowadays could be also supported or connected to some very ancient or very eternal principles or ideas or concepts, instead of play only with the language or with the similitudes to the rest of the people that's doing this circus that the architecture is organizing around the world. Please go ahead. The place is like a stage. People moves around the staircase and see what happens inside, and then they feel as acting or as washing. The forms are geometrical, and the lighting, it's always trying to get this sensation of a performance. Some of the connections of these forms are not only with the idea of the yin-yang or sun and moon, female or male, etc., but also with some architectural works. For example, this dome has the same section than the dome of Palacio Güell de Gaudí, but nobody noticed until, fortunately. Please. Go ahead. But his back is as strange as you can see when it turns around the axis that has the cylinder of the sun tower. Please go ahead. There are always opposite things. All correspond to circle, or and the furniture belongs sooner or later a part of this ambience. As Pepe was explaining, we have been so introducing the idea that every time that we need a furniture, it's easier to design it and to make it than to try to see catalogs. That I can say that I think I never use catalogs for my projects if I am able to. It's a matter of time, but at least until Torres de Ávila was like that. The sun tower with vertical movement and with a very clear reference to John Soane Dome, because in the Masonic temple here in London, because the Masonic reference were also very funny to me to follow. And well, the project was going by himself after to put all the conditions. Well, even if people used to say that Torres de Ávila is a project with a lot of decoration, I don't know what kind of decoration they are seeing, because the space is quite clear and geometrically simple and so on. But the thing is that maybe when people is saying there is a lot of decoration on that project, they are saying in reality there are too many ideas or a lot of thinkings behind. Please. There is a pyramid, a glass one, just in between the two towers, and getting the role as a third element that makes possible to go walking until the last part of the promenade, that's the terrace. Please go ahead. The terrace, that was a magnificent present that the original place gave to me, because the possibility to see Barcelona from that point was the best quality that the place could support. All the different paths appear, and you understand finally when you arrive until the roof, then you discover how is organized the space, because until that moment it's not so easy. You are always in front of a fragment, but at the end you discover and you understand how is the plan, how are the lines, or how are the order of the geometries. It's just a nice picture to you. This is the inner part of the glass pyramid. It's a cube, perfect cube, 4.5 meters by 4.5 meters in plan and also in height. The ceiling was made following a drawing by Mariscal, and it's explaining us the pyramid that's above, And also, well, the, 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 the floor is glass and is connected to the central axis to the entrance. Then when you go in, you can understand more or less by the only moment how is organized the space. That's the point of view from the entrance to the ceiling through the glass floor. The volume was revolution volume just cut by plants, and the dome and this volume have exactly the same curve generating the shape. These things seem to be very complicated, but when you, if you like, when you study the drawings, you understand more or less how is the process. Well, by me, this exhibition, the opportunity to show two of the projects of my studio to you, after to notice that one of the requests was try to explain the process, how we arrive until these nice pictures. Finally, I decided to make these long books with many drawings, because it was the only way to try to explain that. Then this is also connected to some questions that you were asking just before to Pepe. Something like how it's the way to develop a project like this. It's a matter of staying 1,000 of hours at the site, deciding every point, for example, these lighting points here, or not. Well, then I can answer you. Everything is draw, everything. Even these points are draw, one by one, and are or with dimensions or with natural size reproduction in order to make possible the control at the end. It's an enormous quantity of work and has no any comparison even with a standard architectural project. The number of drawings that you have seen is just a selection, and under these drawings are, well, a lot of more things. The next question is it's needed to do that, but I cannot answer. The only thing that I can say is I need to do it sometimes. Please. The elevator, the glass elevator, sorry, because it's difficult to see, but it's one of the best experience. You can go directly from down to the top of the terrace, crossing through the ceiling and discovering suddenly the view of Barcelona. Many people used to be surprised about how we are able to build in Spain elevators like that, with only glass and very thin frames, and then the answer is always the same: drawing that. If you only ask to somebody to do it, the answer is always no, it's not possible, the regulations or something. But if you try to go ahead and ask why, what are the conditions, what's happening here, and you start to draw, then you finally get the elevator. Another view of the terrace with Barcelona strictly connected, fortunately. This is just the entrance space, very low in height and cut from the original stone or concrete walls. You can understand perfectly the cuttings to go in or the cuttings to connect the different parts. I have three, sorry, because it was the first. More? Well, I will show you some furniture pictures. As I used to do, I designed every piece for that project, trying to get the right sensation to the idea, I used to say that by me, industrial design is mainly a lie. Why? Because when you need something, when you need some piece, always happen three things. First of all, the delivery term is longer than the possibility to get it from your artisans or the people that's working at the site. That's what happens in Barcelona, at least. I know that it's not the same here, and of course it's not the same in Japan, but in Barcelona still is like that. Second, the price of this piece is much cheaper than something similar that you can get from the market, for sure. And third, the material and the colors and everything I can select. I can do with the conditions that I would like to apply for that piece, and then becomes very easy a part of the whole thing. The only inconvenience is one. It takes time and it's another work, but it's the only one. You have at the other room this piece, very heavy. But even if it seems luxury, I can say that this is a alabaster cutting piece, and the price of this is 12,000 pesetas. That means around 600 pounds. 60 pounds, sorry. Maybe I was wrong with the taxi driver. Well, then these are the pieces that the people at the cantier threw away because had not enough dimension to work with them. Then, still now, still in the 1992, in a city of Europe like Barcelona, it's possible, of course, working and going to the small village in Tarragona, so far away from the studio, but still it's possible to do things like that appears especially to the outside people as a luxury pieces, but in reality are a third part of the price of any Italian design selection. Well, some nice pictures. The hall that connects from the bar levels to the toilets, makeup counter. It's reversed, but doesn't matter. With reflections of the ceiling, etc. The people that should like to understand better the project, I prefer that you see the drawings. It's more clear. Toilets for men's, following a drawing by Mariscal and getting in a massive piece of stone. Very expensive, yes, but very nice. The photoelectric cellule goes through the hole of the eyes and make possible the connection. It's very dark, but in the drawings you can understand better. Please. Women toilets area. The toilets are always an obsession, but of course I agree. But in this case, it was a special reason, because the vertical proportion of the project made necessary to recuperate some areas underneath of the bar and main floors. Then the only thing to put there was toilets, and then I dedicate to the toilets 3 times more space than normal, and becomes like these rooms to stay in and so on. One thing that I discovered with that project that was very positive It's what happens with you when you work with a vertical proportion of the space. That is very strange. Never happens, or very few times happens. You always have spaces with horizontal proportion, and even for the pictures, that are things that I am quite always thinking on, as you can see. The difference is so big, because everything, when you have the possibility to control in height instead on width, becomes easier for the architecture. And probably it was like that until very few time ago, only 100 years or something like that. These are the details of the cabinets for the toilets, with everything designed except the Colani piece that was integrated, and people was always asking how they should use, and was not very easy. But we had one nice girl close to that area explaining how to use the toilets. Next. The same with mirrors, we get this sensation of Hollywood. Sorry, but where are the toilets? Yes. The collection of furniture. It's even if I cannot feel as bricolaire as Pepe, because he is much more talented than me in the practice of how to develop and to create the things even by his hands. In this case, some of the furniture have these bricolage reasons in behind. For example, the chair for the terrace, the seating is the same base that you have in the puff or in the stool. The legs of the chair are the same than the legs of the table, and the back of the chair is the same that is into the back of the puff of the sofa. Then, with only this combination of pieces, even without a very clear plan about how to get it, we were developing this furniture in only 1 month or 1 month and a half. That's the normal time that you have in an interior design project. Next. Of course, the stool is the same seating that if you can come back to you can see the piece is the same. It's just a combination. Please, next. And the idea was not so clear, because the material, the fiber, glass fiber that is exposed, is the material that is normally used to do this structure, this frame for the upholstery later. The only thing is, normally this glass fiber is not translucent, but I only asked for a translucent one, and I discovered how good it works as a lamp in the terrace. Well, now I will show you 4 pictures of 5 or 6 different projects more. This is the first Japanese project that I have done, the Barna Crossing, a project in a Fukuoka city in the south of Japan, surrounded by very well-known designers and architects, into the Aldo Rossi's hotel, Il Palazzo, and with a team of people like Ettore Sozzas, Gaetano Pesce, Shiro Kuramata, before to die, and the same Rossi working around. This is the central staircase, saving the Japanese regulations that are very strict, and getting as a giant furniture element with aluminium fiber finishings on the walls, and having the holes, the maximum opening that the law gets led to me. This project was made, next please, was made with a team of Barcelona people working from the graphics until the last thing, even the cooking. We were a team of, well, many people, different one, having the control of the project in the several aspects that the design used to have. Platforms of the restaurant. The glass box is a giant volume where was introduced this noisy thing that used to be the discos, that's the dance floor. Next, please. These are, well, the project is very big, impossible to explain in a few time. This is another part, the casual restaurant underneath of the platforms of the main restaurant. Well, we were able also here to design every stool, everything. This is the model of the Spanish pavilion in the book fair in Frankfurt in the last October. I was in charge, after to win a competition, to do the pavilion of Spain, explaining the culture of my country, following that through these 8 pavilions that were inspired in terms of styling in the several periods that the Spanish culture has. There was the Middle Age, Barockian, Neoclassic, Modernist, etc. And then I was playing between architecture and architectural references and the contents that were literature, and that means books, and also playing with the topics that people, especially in Spain, doesn't like, as sand on the floor or red curtains with the colors of the corridas. Please. This is one aspect, if it's possible to focus. At right hand side you can see the 60s pavilion, and at left it's the war and post-war period. It was an interesting work, only done with aluminium extrusion profile, and I can say that with only one profile I was able to construct all the pavilions that you can see. It was again like a mechano process, and I avoid to have any letter, any description, and only were the audio visual systems that many people, especially the editors, were not very agree about. Please, next one. The space was very nice, very big, and the best sensation was to understand the whole thing, getting up through this ramp that I introduced in the building, and understanding at the end of the promenade again how it was organized piece by piece. I think it's the project that they've been more contest because during the week that this exhibition was open in Frankfurt, every newspaper was dedicating every day one page to that, and normally the 80% of the articles were not very nice, because some of them were saying that the project was too futurist or too postmodern, or other people were saying that was the opposite, to topics or that remind them the black story of Spain, etc. It was nice because the opinions were the complete description of the rainbow, no? From black until white. Well, in this case, the project was at least a kind of communication project, or was telling things to the people. That is the main quality that the exhibition that only has 6 days life can be. Next, please. The details were more or less like that. Next, please. This is a building. It's a warehouse in Barcelona that was selected between the 6 best architectural works in the last year by the FAT prize. You know, the FAT is the prize, the award that we have every year in Barcelona for architecture and for interior design. To understand better the Barcelona panorama, I will notice you that, for example, Torres de Ávila project was even not selected at all, was rejected as a interior design work by the jury, but they appreciate this work as one of the 6 or 7 best architectural works made the last year in Barcelona. I was so surprised, but it's like that.
Who was the jury?
Every year change. I think that the last jury has no any intention to repeat at all after the scandal that they had. Next, please. It has an office area in the upper part, and inside it's a kind of standard warehouse with a big space to storage, in this case, foods, aliments. Next, please. I was playing a little with the regulations, a little, not a lot. And it's the only warehouse in this area that has this appearance. The rest are, every of them are exactly the same. Blue color, like the one that you see in the back, in the top. Next. The upper part of the offices with this section that connects external and interiorly the space. Next. Well, one of, until now, my only design in industrial design under production, that means in a catalog, it's this chair, the Jane Greystock, that I was using also for the Japanese project. Now I am working more, as I told you before, in industrial design. I'm doing an ashtray for BD or more chairs for several companies. But during years, this has been the only product. And I was trying to show you the connection between a furniture piece like that and the next project that I will show you, that's a big architectural project. Next, please. Next. This is office and culture areas building that I'm just starting to build in Japan, in Marugame, with an sculpture park. This was just the first model. Now the project is under construction. But you can see more or less how the form is not so different between a small piece, a small object, or a big building. In this case, the height is more than 43 meters high. Next, please. This is the second model, more similar to the final solution. I was playing, as usually, with two things: the expression of the concrete walls with always geometrical cuttings, with a very easy to describe, not easy, but with a possibility to describe by mathematics or geometrical reasons every movement that you can see in the volume, and also the simple square that's joining all the windows of the offices and culture areas, connecting to the sculpture park in front. Next. The side of the building has this shape. Has been very funny to get finally that the Japanese were able to do that, because as you know probably, when they see a curve they begin to feel nervous. And in this case they have all the curves that they can see from now until the last of his life. Next, please. And sorry for that, this is a very important project, but I only have this picture. We are working on this right now. It's I'm very concerned because it started in a competition as just an idea. Second, I was thinking maybe it could be possible. Third, we won the competition, and now we are constructing it. That's the reason because I am concerned. It's a part that's next to the Bofill Taller de Arquitectura, the Bofill's atelier in Barcelona. Is my neighbor. This square wall with holes belongs to his property. We are not very friends after that. And especially because in the competition, the two participating were the Taller de Arquitectura of Bofill and my studio. And the project started as an idea, as a dream, more than another thing. Because the chimney was an old concrete chimney around beginning of this century that nobody has even technical drawings about how it's inside, and we have been checking everything. It's a very serious and difficult work. And also the responsibility, it's much more than this other kind of responsibility that you used to have when it seems that you are in contact or talking to the city through a project like Torres de Ávila, that is more a kind of communication matter. In this case, the main worries are in other hand, at least right now. And the hand is to make it real, to get the possibility to construct this dream. The height of this chimney is 100 meters, and the diameter of the platform that we are going to put as a mirador is around 30 meters. Initially, there was a group of 8 silos, 8 cylinders of concrete at one side of the chimney, and I decided, maybe I'm not so sure if I was right, to reproduce another group of 8 new ones with the same external finishing, with wood cast material to protect the differences, but with a opposite internal structure system. That means that the new 8 silos are made in steel, very thin and very transparent, and became a whole, only space, big one with 10 meters high and these distances in opposite condition to the original ones. Well, I'm not able to explain much more things with this picture, and I ask you, if you are interested in that project, to see the drawings. First of all, to notice the big effort that suppose a project like that we are affording with the same intensity as, for example, the Torres de Ávila. And by me, this is a project that has a very straight connection to Torres, because it's again a dream, it's again a project that the less important matter is for what is it, and the most important thing is to create a place, a new one, with all these tensions and with the discoverings that we are doing with the basements, searching in the old concrete factory and discovering every time new spaces and enjoying as usual. Thank you, that's all. It's very late.
Thank you very much. We're going to take a break for lunch. Maybe I'll talk about that more after. We can meet 2:30.
We'll pick up questions after.
Yeah.
After lunch.
Give you a chair.